I do screen recording for all of my classes, but occasionally I might forget to do one thing or two. So you might want to remind me to turn on the screen recorder at the beginning of each class, and on top of that, remind me to make sure that it is recording the audio portion of it. Excuse me, can I answer your question? Okay. So also remind me to check that I'm actually recording from the microphone, because otherwise you will be watching a silent movie, which is not entirely useless, but it's much better when it has my voice, with the screen recording. Right. So the first thing we'll do is to go over the syllabus, and you can just click the link, and this is the HTML version of the syllabus. I'm going to use a new tab. And this is mostly stuff that you get from the college catalog already. The first part anyway, the title and the description, nothing really to go over. This part here, I don't want to go over at this point, because these are the things that you're supposed to be able to do once you have taken this class and passed this class with a letter grade of C or better. So I'm not going to go over this, because some of these I cannot really kind of explain it, because that's the whole objective of this class, is to go over these topics. This class has 3 units of lecture and 1 unit of lab, and technically speaking this is the lab section, but I'm going to change it so that this becomes the lecture, and then the lab will be online, because I think the time is better spent when it comes to the lecturing. But when it comes to doing your homework assignment, there are ways that we can kind of exchange. You can ask questions, and I can help you through the homework assignment using online tools. Okay. So we'll be using the 54 hours for lecture purposes and not for lab purposes. This is information about me. My name is Tak. Last name is Auyung, A-U-Y-E-U-N-G. My office is number 7 in Liberal Arts 133. The building is 1 to my right-hand side. And you can find it pretty easily. It's the door, it's the glass door, and it says Business and Computer Science Division. That would be the entrance into the building, and my office is number 7 within that building. Office hours are 8 to 9 o'clock, pretty much all the way from Monday through Thursday, and on Friday it's going to be 8:30 to 9:30. It's not online like last semester. This is actually actual. I'll be here from 8:30 to 9:30. My phone number is 484-8250. To contact me, it's better to contact me by email. And the email address is, what?
Should I say anything?
No, you don't have to. And the email address is this one here. I make a new email account every semester, so this way it's easier for me to distinguish, okay, this is what I got for which semester. All right, any questions about this slide? Okay, let's move on. For this class, we are in lab section 19996, so we are meeting, there we go, 1:15 to 2:30. Somehow I just got the whole thing shifted by 15 minutes, so I got here and go like, well, let's wait. But it won't be like that on Wednesday, okay? Now I know it's 1:15 and not 1:30. The final exam for this class is here. It is on the 17th of December, and the time is 12:45 to 2:45. It will be an in-person final exam, so we'll all be here to take the final exam. Any questions about this slide? Questions? All right, let's move on. Class policies and rules and stuff like that. Let's go over prerequisites first, okay? This class does have one prerequisite, and it is a prerequisite of passing with a letter grade of C or better from CISP 300, 370 or 301, depending on which campus you come from. You may be taking CISP 301. So I'll talk about 301 in just a little bit. For the most part, if you have taken CISP 300 or 370 anywhere within the district, I would be able to check your prerequisite, and there's nothing you have to do in that case. If you have taken CISP 301 from Sac City, you do have to file a prerequisite challenge form because it doesn't show up on my screen at all. Because on this campus, we don't offer CISP 301, so that's why there's no way it can say, oh, okay, this person has already met the requirements because 301 doesn't show up on this campus. So you have to file a prerequisite challenge form, go to the office, pick it up, and just show proof that you have passed CISP 301 with a letter grade of C or better. Turn it in, and that's all you have to do. Okay? I will allow a 1-week window from the first class, which is today, to get all the approved prerequisite challenge forms or equivalent verification from counseling. For people who transfer from another district or from another university, counseling can also do a verification form and say, okay, I can see that you have taken this class at this particular college or university, and it is equivalent to the prerequisite of this class. But I need all of these things taken care of within a week, okay? Because people who do not meet the prerequisite requirement after the first week, I will drop those people. They can be added back later, but it's much better to take care of all these things, so that there's no interruption. Co-requisites do not apply to this class. We do not have any co-requisite classes. Acceptable excuses for attendance purposes will be sickness of the student with doctor's note or a note from the health center on campus with dated and signed. Can also be any type of summon from the government. These two are just examples. In the previous semester, I had a student with a naturalization appointment. That's okay. But nothing else is going to be excused, which does not mean that you cannot have any absences. It's just it's not going to be excused. The attendance policy of the district, this is district-wide, it's not just my class, it's not just ARC, but district-wide. College students are expected to attend all sessions of their courses. Excessive absence may result in the student being dropped from class by the instructor. A student may be dropped from any class when that student's absences exceed 6% of the total hours of class time. We are going to have 54 lecture hours in this class, so when you compute 54 times 6%, it computes to 3.24 hours or so. Okay? And each class session is 80 minutes, which is 1 hour and 20 minutes. So the third absence will cross that threshold of being excessive. So that means you have everybody in this class has 2 unexcused absences allowable. Okay, so you can miss class for no particular reason twice. Is that okay? All right. But it is also written in the college catalog, if a student is absent because of illness verified by the health center or personal physician, the absence must be excused and the student allowed to make up work missed. So if you are sick, okay, make sure you get a physician or the health center to verify that. Okay. Are there any questions about this 4.4 regarding attendance? Questions? All right. How soon to report an absence? I understand that certain things cannot be scheduled, like when you're going to be sick. So if you are in fact, sick, just contact me as soon as possible. It doesn't have to be you. You can have someone to call me or send me an email and just basically say, okay, this person, is sick today, won't be able to make it in class. So that way, when I take roll, I'll just kind of mark it as absent, and then when you come back and give me the verification, okay, the doctor's note. Okay. But don't wait, okay? Just don't wait until like a week or two later and then you come back and say, oh, I forgot about this doctor's note. The 6% is for all of the other unexcused reasons, okay? What if you have a child is sick and you have to stay home, okay? Well, that's one absence. What if you wake up and your car won't start? That's another absence. This is a hybrid class. We do meet, this time of meeting is not optional, it is mandatory. So what I will do is, just what I did earlier today, I'll take roll and use that to keep track of attendance. Are there any questions whatsoever about the attendance policies? Yes?
For the online things, do we have to...
This is not considered an online class, so I will only use the hybrid / face-to-face criteria for this class. Yeah, the online one is only for like 100% online classes. So if someone does not log in and do something actually meaningful for about 6 days or so, I will count it as absent too. But it doesn't apply to this class because I'm actually taking roll face-to-face. Click next here. All right. Actually, at this point, if you guys don't think this is too distracting, for people who are currently trying to add to the class, you're either on the wait list or beyond the wait list, I will pass the permission numbers, and what you need to do is just put your name next to the next available permission number, and that's it. I mean, we have enough spots in the classroom. I see no reason not to add everybody in the classroom here. Okay, so who is trying to add to the class? Okay, I'm going to start on this side. It will eventually get to that side. Okay, classroom policy and lab behavior policy. The bottom line is, this is a classroom. It is intended for teaching a particular class, in this case cisp360. If you need to work on something else, it's okay with me. If you want to work on your calculus homework because you have it due like in 2 hours and you're trying to get it done, just make sure that you're not distracting other people. That's not a problem for me. It's just that when you're in this class, it's probably better to pay attention to what I'm talking about instead of doing some other homework or doing something else on the computer. What I do not really tolerate would be things that are distracting or disruptive. For the most part, the biggest problem that I have in most of my classes is chatting. I mean, it's really easy, for people to kind of turn to the person next to the next person and just, start to chat. And sometimes it's not even just random, off-topic chatting. Sometimes it may be class-related stuff like, oh, I kind of missed what Tag said about conjunction. Can I take a look at your notes, or can you kind of remind me what he just talked about? If you have questions that is related to the class, just raise your hand and ask me. Okay, that's not a problem. Okay, try not to ask your neighbor, about stuff that is related to the class, because that means your neighbor would also not be able to pay attention to me, and that's not good. Any type of thing that is off topic, save those for after the class. Okay, this class is only 80 minutes. Okay, just save those topics for after class, discussion, and you can do it outside. Pets, I don't think we have a problem with pets here as far as I can see. Do we have any small animals in backpacks? My cats would actually jump into my backpack every day. I think the cats think that if they stay in the backpack, I would carry them to outside. I don't know. I mean, because every single time I try to go outside, they would look at me and go like, okay, I can see that you're going outside, and this is what you're going to take with you. I'm going to get into that. Cell phone can be distracting, so turn off your ringer, please, during the class. For various, for different types of phones, there's at least one app that can help you, turn off the ringer, during class time. And I use that because, if I turn off the ringer manually, I usually forget to turn it back on. Okay, until somebody screams at me and go like, I tried to call you 20 times, what happened? Oh, I forgot to turn on my phone. But there are programs, apps out there that can let you schedule, an off time. Okay, some are free and some are not, but use that. Okay, it's really helpful to be able to turn off the phone, during a certain time, and then it will turn itself back on after that time. So it's really helpful to do it like that. I don't really mind too much if you want to text a little bit. I can see, I can understand sometimes, there's stuff that you have to handle right away, and you just have to text back. If it doesn't disturb, or distract other people, it's okay with me, okay? But it may be distracting to you since you are the one who's texting back and communicating with someone else. This classroom, definitely, we will have no food or drinking in the classroom or the lab. And you can see I have a big bottle here.
Awesome. There you go.
Okay, thank you. But I'm usually doing this when I'm standing away from the desk. So if you need to drink, it's okay to take your drink outside, drink and then come back in, as long as it is not too distracting. Okay. Once or twice is okay, but doing it all the time, probably not a good idea. And non-compliant participants will be asked to leave the classroom. Okay, so let's try not to get there. The next slide talks about conduct code, which is mostly talking about cheating or academic dishonesty or academic integrity. I'm not going to read this whole thing here. It can be a little bit boring. So what I'll do is I'm just going to focus on this sentence here. Academic dishonesty occurs when students attempt to show possession of a level of competency, knowledge, or skill that is higher than what that student possesses. So if it's lower, it's okay. It's only when it's higher that I have a problem with. Yeah, most of you are getting that point. Okay, that's good. Okay, academic dishonesty can be reported to administration, starting with my dean, and an accumulation of these attempts, possibly from multiple classes, can lead to expulsion from the college. And in the case of, let's say homework getting copied, it's not just the person who's copying that will get a 0, it's the person who actually did the homework will also get a 0. Because guess what? I cannot tell who did it. Okay, I can only see that, okay, all of these are exactly the same. I have no idea who did it and who did the copying, but they'll all be getting 0s. Okay. Activities like a quiz or exam midterm involving academic dishonesty would not count for attendance. So I might look at it as an absent. The instructor, me, may ask people that I think there's something going on, maybe to do additional work or explain work that is already submitted in order for me to determine whether that work was done independently and original. Okay. This clause or this point is here because it has happened multiple times that I have students who could not do the homework assignment or did not understand the class material, and usually by a large margin. But somehow they were able to turn in homework assignments that were perfectly done. When I say perfectly done, I mean better than everybody else in the class. So I could not match the assignment with anyone else's submission. And in those cases, in some of those cases, they got external help, like a student from Sac State or someone else outside of the campus. And in those cases, I will be asking those people to make sure that they did actually do their own work by asking them about their homework assignments. In this class, everything is supposed to be done independently, which means in this case without the aid of anyone during or prior to the activity. And also originally, which means without copying from or significantly deriving from the work of others. Of course, it is unless the homework assignment says otherwise, okay? Because occasionally I will give you a starting point. I will give you a program and say, start with this program and extend it this way. Well, obviously in that case, it's not going to be strictly original because I gave you the original code to start with. But that's okay because it is, the instruction of the homework assignment to start with a particular program. And occasionally, I have done this in the past, unfortunately, to retroactively re-examine someone's work and then determine, oh, I missed this one. This is actually not original or not independent. And as a result, change the final grade by regrading earlier homework assignments. Grading scenario. What if multiple submissions are identical or nearly identical? They're not necessarily a problem because I might give you, at least at the beginning of the semester, homework assignments that are really easy to do. Okay, if they're so easy, there may be only like 2 ways of doing it. And this is a class of 30, right? I mean, someone's homework assignment is bound to look exactly like someone else's. Okay, so in that case, it's not a problem. But when this class continues to progress, the homework assignments will get more and more complex and becomes almost unlikely or improbable that they will be exactly the same. Okay? So it depends a lot on what we are dealing with. And the same thing applies to when answers of several questions are identical or nearly identical in an exam. Now, one time I was in a different class, this is the first semester that I teach this class, but in one of my other classes, one student's submission was the answer to the same question but a different version in the class. In other words, that guy got caught. Okay, there are 2 versions of the test, okay, version A and version B. This person got version A, but turned in the answer for version B. It was a perfect answer, just not for that version of the test. So it depends a lot on what kind of question we are talking about and whether it has several versions and the versions matches or not, that sort of thing. Are there any questions? No? Okay. Moving on to grading. This is how I assign letter grade at the end of the semester. During the entire semester, I don't even talk about letter grade. I'll just give you the numbers. Okay, this is you're scoring 15 out of 20 in your first exam or something like that. Okay, so in this class, the breakdown is a little bit different from all of your other classes. F is less than 12.5%. D is 12.5 to 37.5%. To get a C, which is probably what you need for your next class, is to get at least 37.5%. Okay, a B is starting with a 62.5%, and an A starts with 87.5%. That's how your grade is going to be broken down into letter grades at the end of the semester. But during the semester, I don't even give you the letter grade because it's not really that meaningful to me. It's much better to look at just the score and also your ranking in class. I will also give you your ranking in class. It's visible only to you, okay? So no one else can actually see your ranking or your score, but it is a good idea to look at your ranking and also your score to kind of give yourself an idea of how you're doing in class. The ranking alone is not a good indicator because out of a class of 30, someone is going to be ranked 30. But what if the person who's ranking 30 is getting 90% of all the points already? Then there's nothing to worry. Does it make sense? Okay. On the other hand, there can be like 30 students in class. This person is ranked, let's say 10, but only got about 50% of all the scores. Well, maybe there's a reason, there's a cause for concern in that case. So look at both the score and also the ranking when you look at your grades. There are 4 components to your final grade. All the homework assignments of this class add up to 20% of your final grade. The final exam itself is worth 40% of your final grade. The first exam is 20%. and then the second exam is also 20%. The first exam will happen about 1/3 through the semester. The second exam will occur about 2/3 through the semester. So there are basically 2 midterm exams in this class. Each one is worth 20% of the final grade. So are there any questions about how your grade is broken down into components? Questions? Okay, let's move on. Your score is going to be based on observable academic competence and not based on effort, because guess what? I cannot verify effort. Okay, it is all going to be based on what I can observe in the assessments. We are not going to have multiple choice questions, so we can kind of skip this point here. The grading for any type of open-ended question is going to be based on rubrics. So I will basically divide one particular criterion into multiple levels of competency or achievement, and then I'll just assign your grade accordingly. And you can see exactly the criteria as well as your ranking within that criterion. I do not take any late submission, save for sickness and being able to make up work due to sickness. So that means any submission after the due date will not count. Okay. Are there any questions? Okay, moving on to tips. Okay, helping out a fellow student. I'm just kind of curious, how many people study together with somebody else in some of your classes? Okay. Well, in some of my classes, there are people who like to study together, which is not a problem. A lot of times studying together is a good thing to do because you can kind of double check and cross check your understanding of concepts and whatnot. But doing homework assignments together can be tricky. Okay, just last semester in one of my classes, I had about 6 or 7 students who turned in improbably similar homework assignments. Okay, they were turning in pretty much the same program, the same kind of code, structured exactly the same way, which is unlikely for that particular homework assignment. And those students were not bad students. Okay, they were not attempting to cheat, but they were working on the homework assignment together, and they ended up with exactly the same code. But that is not good because it is not original nor independent anymore. So even though there's an absence of intent to deceive, it is still not original, and I had to give them all zeros. It's not really a big homework assignment, not really a whole lot of point value, but they just learned, okay, we should not be working on homework assignments together. So if you have any questions, or if someone else has a question about a homework assignment, what are you going to do? Does that mean that you cannot work on homework assignments together? Well, the answer is no, and kind of yes, but it's tricky. So I have this little dialogue here to illustrate how you can help a fellow student with a homework assignment, but not running into any potential of making the submission not independent or not original. So this is how it goes. Student A is having a problem with a particular homework assignment. The program is not working. Student A is stuck. And student A asks student B, can I take a look at your program? Okay? Likely scenario, right? Student B could have ended here by saying, no, go away. But instead, student B decided, well, let me see if I can help you. But student B is also understanding the policy on original and independent work. So student B said, no, I cannot show you my answer, but I will be happy to answer any question that you have about the concepts involved in the homework assignment. And student A is a shortcut kind of person, and instead of doing it the long way, student A is asking, can I just show you my program so you can give me some pointers? Or here's my program, fix it. Okay. Well, if student B fixes student A's program, it's not going to be good because that fix is not original, and student A did not do the homework independently anymore. Are you guys getting my point here? Okay, so the involvement of student B cannot be very direct in this case, but student B can still help. So student B can respond by saying, I'd rather not take a look at your program. Can you describe how the program is not behaving correctly? Can you describe the problem without showing me the code? Student A is frustrated. That's difficult. Where do I start? The program just doesn't work. Okay? And you have no idea how often I hear that from not just my students, but also from people around me. Tech, I can't log in. And sometimes these are my colleagues. But the website is not working. Well, what do you mean by not working? Are you getting a 404, or are you getting an error, or you're not being able to log in? So be more specific. Okay, so student A is now being more specific. The loop is supposed to exit after going 4 times, but it's not exiting at all. It keeps looping, right? Doing the same thing over and over again. So student B, instead of looking at the code, asks, what is the condition of the loop? Student A says, x equals 4 is the condition of the loop. Student B comes back and say, I see. What is the meaning of a single equal symbol in C++? Now we're getting some, kind of subject-specific information here, but you can kind of just get a feeling of this thing, okay? So student B is always asking questions. And student A comes back and say, oh, a single equal symbol means compare for equality. And student B, this time, instead of just asking another question, says, I don't think so, okay? I think your understanding of a single equal symbol is not correct, okay? Without saying what it is, just saying, no, your understanding may not be correct. And student A is asking, so what does it mean? I mean, tell me, what is a single equal symbol in C++? And student B, once again, is not answering that question directly, okay? And instead, student B is saying, Tech, just talked about that in class about a week ago. You can either review your notes, or you can watch the lecture recording again. Okay? To some people, this is the most annoying type of answer, right? I mean, you never answer it straight. I just need a quick answer and fix it. So student A is getting a little frustrated here. Come on, just tell me. I don't have time to review my notes. Student B is encouraging, which means student B is a much better person than I am. It won't take long, plus it's really beneficial to you if you review the notes. Just last semester, I had one student in one of my classes who's exactly like student A. In class, during the lab time, trying to get the program done and keep asking me, just fix my program. And I had to use this, to answer to his question. Okay, student A finally, after a few minutes, oh, I see, a single equal symbol is an assignment operator. Student B confirms that and asks the second question. Then what is an equality? How do you check for equality in C++? If a single equal symbol is assignment, then what is equality checking? Okay, then that's the answer. Student A finally gets it. Double 2 equality symbol together is checking for equality. So student B confirms that and just make sure the student A can fix the program, and that's it. Okay? So why do you think I came up with this long dialogue in the syllabus?
Because it shows you how you can help another student without giving them the answer.
Exactly. Well, is it taking longer?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, instead of just walking over, place the cursor to the right point, press the equal symbol, and just walk away, this is going to take a lot longer for both student A and student B. But if student B just walk over, put that equality symbol at the right place, and just walk away, it's not going to help student A. Okay? And what if it is not just one single symbol that student A requires help with? What if, it is like half of the program?
And it starts to get further and further away from it being original work, which then you start going under dishonesty.
Exactly. And plus, even without the dishonesty policy, even without all the original and independent, requirements, which is really just there so that students can learn what they're supposed to learn in class. Okay, so this is basically how you can help out a fellow student without giving out the actual answer and making the submission not original in this case. Study habit. Well, attendance is important. Okay, at least to me, when I was a student, attendance was important because I don't read the textbook. I get most of the information and knowledge during class. Okay? But that's because I got better professors than I am. Bring something to class to take notes. Okay, I have seen a lot of cases where people come into a class, not this kind of classroom, but a regular classroom, with nothing whatsoever. It's not a tablet, it's not a smartphone, no paper, no pencil, nothing. Okay, so bring something to take notes because there's no telling when you might say, oh, okay, this is something I need to write down. Okay. Write down something that I'm not saying or doing on screen because it is being recorded. So there's no need to frantically try to write down everything that I do on the projector or something that I say because that is all going to be recorded. What is not recorded is what is going through your mind right now. Okay? So if you think of something that I'm not saying explicitly, it's not showing on the screen, but you're making a connection between what I'm talking about to something else that is related to this class, okay? Write that down, okay? Because that is important to you. Okay? Learning is not just memorization. It is about making connections between concepts. And that's something that I cannot talk about because I don't know when you will make a connection between what I'm talking about to something that I have already talked about like a week ago or 2 weeks ago. The other type of notes that you might want to take is to take a timestamp. Okay, when I start to talk about something that is important, that is new, that I have not talked about before, just kind of note the time, write it down, and say at 2:15, Tech is now starting to talk about pointers. Okay, because that makes it easier for you to go to the YouTube recording and skip all the way to that point, and you don't have to watch the entire thing all over again just to find out when I start to talk about pointers. You can just skip to that point and say, okay, this is when Tech starts to talk about pointers. I might just need to review 2 minutes of the entire recording. You might want to study again after the lecture. The sooner the better because it is still fresh in your mind. And particularly revisit tricky topics. Repeat my examples that I do in class and so on. Okay. When you do have homework assignments, start to do the homework assignments as early as possible because starting early does not mean more work, does it? Okay. You're giving yourself more time to fix your own programs instead of asking someone to help you. Now, trying to solve problems by yourselves is, at least to me, it is better than asking someone. Because and when I solve a problem, I'm learning through the entire process. Okay, it's basically something that I can learn that cannot be learned by reading and by just watching someone else do it. After an assignment is due, I will always give you the solution to that particular homework assignment. So at that point, what you want to do, or if you have time, is to compare your solution to mine. You might be getting 100% out of yours already, but you can still spend a little bit of time to look at my solution and just to compare the two approaches and see if you can find out, okay, what are the differences? Are they the same? Are they really the same? And if so, is there really an advantage to do it one way or another way? Because that analysis will help you understand more about programming than just, okay, I got the homework assignment done, I got 100%, and I can just move on. I use a lot of in-class examples that are not in my notes, okay? So that's going to be useful if you review and study those. Basically, anytime someone asks me a question to clarify something, that's a trigger, okay, for me to write a particular sample program just to illustrate that point. So that's why there are a lot of examples that I would use in class that is not in my notes, because I cannot anticipate what kind of questions people may be asking. All right, so that's that. And then 7 is basically just a tentative schedule for this class. In other words, the topics that I should go over, and just a very rough timeline of when to go over those topics. Okay. And you can see that these are off by 1 day, by the way. Today is the 25th, not the 26th. Are there any questions about the syllabus? If there are no questions about the syllabus, the first thing you want to do is to go to this class, and so it's to go to this class, and you want to complete this activity here. It's called syllabus acknowledgement, because until you finish the syllabus acknowledgement, you cannot open up these other resources. So you need to acknowledge that you have received the syllabus, you know how to access the syllabus, and you acknowledge all the major points of the syllabus. So I'm not going to do that here, because you can do that by yourselves when you have time. Are there any questions about everything that I have talked about up to this point?
Actually, are we going to just jump into the first lecture on Wednesday?
In fact, we are starting today, right now. Yep. So the first thing I will do is basically to talk about the workflow of how to get your homework assignments done. So I'm going to go to Getting Started here, which has a lot of topics, kind of. And what I will focus on is computer organization. Well, this is all kind of boring stuff. So what I'm going to do is to start with this one, which is a lot more hands-on. The question is, how are you going to do homework in this class? What kind of tools do you need? What type of environment are you going to use to work on your homework assignment? I really do not have a preference. You can use a variety of tools to do it. Let me just kind of back out of this one first. Instead, I'll show you this little questionnaire here. Okay, under this topic, Getting Started, there's a questionnaire called Programming Environment. You don't have to get to it right now, because you can do it after the class, but I'll go there just to show you what it is about. This is a questionnaire to help you decide what is best as a programming environment for you, and there are a few choices here. This is also an assignment that counts for some minor amount of points. Not a whole lot. If you forget about this one and not do it, it's not going to severely affect your grade. Okay, the first question is, do you have a remote/network access to a Linux machine? Because if you do, and you want to use that for your homework assignment, you don't have to answer any further questions, because you can do it. So it depends on whether you have access already to a remotely, or you have access to a Linux box that you can use for homework assignments. Is anyone using Linux as your standard operating system? Okay. So if you have Linux, that's readily available, just use that environment for homework for this class. That's good. Okay. So let's say the answer is no. Okay. So I don't have remote access to a Linux machine, and I cannot use it for homework assignments. So when you do this and you click Save, you click Next Page. It is sensitive to the answer of the previous question. So this time it says, if you do not have access to a remote Linux box, then you might want to consider other options, and so on. One option is to install CodeBlocks. Okay, CodeBlocks is a IDE, or Integrated Development Environment, for C++ programming. I can show you exactly what it looks like. This is what it looks like. Okay, it's an IDE. To me, it is distracting. Okay, I have been programming for many years using just an editor and command line tools. to me, this is distracting because just count the number of items on the menu bar itself. Okay, I would call it about what 13, 14 items or so, and then you look at all the icons. And when you're writing programs, you can right click and then it will give you many even more options of what you can do. Now, obviously, it is designed this way to help programmers, not to confuse or distract programmers. But the target audience of a tool like this are professional programmers, people who do this for a living, 8 hours a day. Okay, and we are just starting. So a lot of times, in this class, some of these menu items don't even make sense. I mean, what is this? What does this mean? What does that mean? And I think it is more distracting than it has to be. And that's why, it may not be a good fit for this class. But if this is what you want to try, hey, that's okay. You can give it a try and decide to change later on and say, oh, okay, I think this is a little bit too much. I want to see what command line interface is like and give that a try too. Okay? Yep. Eclipse is mostly for Java programs. You can use it for C++ too. Do you have it already installed and have used it?
Yeah, I've used the Java doctor in Eclipse. So
Okay.
I haven't used it once before.
Okay. Yeah. The bottom line is when you turn in your homework assignment, can my automated script process your submission? And I will make it very specific. I will make it very clear, how to turn in your homework assignment. So as long as what you turn in, I can process, the tool that you use to make it happen is up to you.
Right.
Yep. Okay, but I do want to show the class, the code blocks because it is open source like Eclipse, and it's relatively lightweight. Eclipse is pretty heavy duty. How big is the installation?
What? I don't remember. It's been a while since I mostly learned in Java. But
Okay.
I'm used to IDEs. So
Right.
I'm used to Eclipse.
Okay, if you're already used to one, that's a different story. Because the majority of students in this class have never seen an IDE before. So that's kind of like an exceptional case in your case. So you can still use whatever tool that is familiar to you that can still get the job done. All right. So code blocks is a possibility. The problem with using code blocks, one of the potential problems with code blocks or any tool is it may not be installed on a PC that you want to use to do your homework. So let's say you have some time available, you go to the library and you say, well, I want to kind of do my homework assignment for cisp360. Well, guess what? Those computers probably don't have code blocks installed. But that's okay as long as they have the USB port available. You can install code blocks, the portable version, onto a thumb drive or external hard drive. So that way you can actually use code blocks on any computer that you can plug in your external hard drive. So that's why I give you a hyperlink to the portable version of it, because this way you can go to the LRC, you can go to our lab, you can use just about any computer running Windows to use code blocks. Okay, so at the end of this question, there's also a yes or no. Do you plan to use code blocks in Windows and avoid learning how to use Linux and the command line? So let's just say the answer is no here. You click next page. It will skip question number 3 to question number 4 that is relevant to your answer. Since you do not plan to use code blocks in Windows and you do not have access to a remote Linux box, you might want to consider using a Linux virtual machine. A virtual machine is really a neat concept because what it does is it is basically having a Linux box that is running as an application program on a particular computer. And I can package it so that it is portable. In other words, both the emulator and the installed machine can be on a thumb drive. So you can plug it in to any Windows box, double click on an icon, and start up your virtual machine. Okay, so that's entirely possible. So in this case, the answer is, if you answer no, please see me in my office hour because you're running out of options. So I'm going to answer yes here. And I'm done with the survey. So this survey has no right or wrong answer. It is just a way for you to explore options of how to do homework assignments in this class. It just gives you a few questions so they can explore different possibilities. Yep. I'm not going to provide a server, so how do you get onto
The survey.
the survey? The survey, you have to answer, you have to get past the syllabus acknowledgement first. Then let me go to the very beginning here. Okay, this is the class website itself, and it is under Getting Started. You have to click Getting Started to get to that page. But you can't get to it unless you are done with your syllabus acknowledgement. Okay, so once you click Getting Started, it is down here, it is this link here. It's called Programming Environment. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. So if this class is starting at 15, it's ending at 25? 30? Okay. So we have a few minutes left. All right. So this is a slide that I have prepared that talks about what tool is available and also the plus and minuses of using an IDE. So this is how I would compare using an IDE to using the command line tools. An IDE is like a fancy battery-powered drill with torque control, selectable hammer action, selectable gear, variable speed, laser alignment, bubble level, and a Bluetooth interface. So your phone can tell you the battery is about out of charge, it is time to get it recharged. Or place an order on Amazon so you can have a spare battery. Just press this button, that order will go through right away. Yes, okay. So if the point of the class is learning about drill bits and material that you're going to drill, this fancy drill is going to be a distraction, okay? So it's much better to use a manual drill, instead of a fancy drill like that, so that we don't get distracted by all the fancy features. If you're a contractor making a living, okay, obviously a hand drill is not going to be very useful, okay? Because drilling through concrete using a hand drill, are you kidding me? There's no way. You would just be ending up with powder, right? Because without the impact action, you cannot drill through concrete. So that's the comparison. So here is a link to code blocks again. Okay. So if you're not going to use IDE, what are you going to do to write programs? So I will kind of go through this myself so that you can see firsthand, what you have to do to write programs using the command line interface. This is called a CLI, a command line interface. So I'll start with the beginning here. I'm going to create a folder. So to create a folder, you use a command called mkdir or make directory. To change to that folder, you use cd and ls to list the content inside the folder. To edit the file, you can use nano, A-N-A-N-O, nano, or my favorite is VI or Vim, which it has a steeper learning curve, so it's not really for everyone, but if you want to give it a try, that's actually, an interesting program. Okay, and I'm in a text editor right now. I type in my program. That, and then I have to compile the program. What I have just typed so far is called the source code of a program. It makes sense to a programmer, but it makes absolutely no sense to the computer. In other words, that program cannot be run by a computer because there's no way the processor inside this computer can understand the text that I have just entered. So what we need is a tool called a compiler to convert the source code into object code. So this is how I do the conversion from source code to object code. And you can see that now I have two files. One is the file that I typed. The other one is the object code that is, the translated version, basically. Okay, it has machine code that the processor understands how to use. But this is not the last step. The last step is to do the linking. I'll explain all of these concepts on Wednesday. But I'm just going to go through the process here. Okay, now that I have done the linking, I have three files in this folder. The first one, the one without an extension, is what we call an executable. That is the program that is ready for the processor to run. And to run the program on the command line, you have to tell the computer which program you are going to run, and it is called hello, in the current folder. The dot at the beginning here is the current folder. A slash is basically a separator of the path of various components on the path. And here's the output of the program. This is the hand drill approach. The other approach is to use Eclipse, start a project, and then insert a class or file into this, and then use this interface. Okay. It's great for the purpose of, let's say, Android programming. When you're dealing with a complex project that has many different components, and some of the components are basically WYSIWYG based, Eclipse is great for that. But for simple projects like the Hello World program, the command line interface is not a bad way to go. The other thing about using Linux and the command line is many universities use Linux as a de facto standard for their lab computers. So knowing how to use Linux on the command line is a skill set that may be useful later on in your in your studies, in your classes. So it may not be time wasted anyway. Okay. Are there any questions at this point about the programming environment? Yep.
Would you accept the Microsoft Visual Studio as an IDE?
The IDE is okay because it's up to you to pick which IDE, but you have to turn in homework assignments in the format that I require. And it will be graded on a Linux box using a script. So as long as you can make your submission work with the way I grade your homework assignment, it will still be okay. The tool that you use to make your files and your project is not that important to me. If you use a tool that I'm not familiar with, the other thing is I cannot help as much, because if you use a command line tool, I can tell you everything about the command line tools. I can tell you everything about GDB and so on. But if you use a different tool and you say, how do I set a breakpoint in this type of IDE? I may or may not know the answer. Okay, so that's kind of like a trade-off. If you are already familiar with a particular tool, yes, it is probably okay. On the other hand, if you have no prior experience with any tools, I would just pick the simplest approach, and so that it doesn't distract you from what you're actually trying to learn in this class. Okay. Any other questions? And then the other thing about the Microsoft approach is it C# or does it actually do C++?
It does like a bunch of different languages, but it does C++.
Okay. I just want to make sure it's not just using C#, because C# is not 100% the same as C++. All right. And am I running out of time?
It's 2:33.
Sorry?
Yeah.
It's 2:33.
Okay. And this class ends at 2:30? Okay. So we are done for today. I'll see you guys on Wednesday. And don't forget to do what you need to do, the syllabus acknowledgement, and also the programming tool, the environment questionnaire.